All right, this is the pre-show. Let me explain what's going on here. We have a special guest. That's right. That's right. It's not your usual voices on Connected. We have a special guest. It's Glenn Fleischman. Glenn, welcome to Connected.
Hello.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm always very connected.
Now, I want to remind everybody that this pre-show segment is, of course, the segment only for non-members. So, because our members pay, and one of the deals is that they don't hear Glenn. They pay to not hear Glenn. That's how it works.
Right. I get a cut of that.
Podcasting.
Thank you.
And so for members, let's start the show. And for non-members, let's talk to Glenn. Glenn, you just started a column at Six Colors called "Help Me, Glenn." You're also doing a lot of stuff at Take Control, and you've got all these Kickstarter books. You're a very busy guy these days.
I am. It seems like I never thought that becoming an expert on 19th century printing technology would be the path of greatest career success in 2020.
On the internet.
But stranger things have happened to almost all of us, I think. Yeah, it's been great. Love being at Six Colors. I never have gotten so many like, hooray, you're there kind of things from anybody but family since joining Six Colors. And what's great is even after, I've been writing since the 90s about Mac stuff. I started with a Aldus magazine article about font management. And so I was 94 maybe. And I am still surprised that people are like, hey, this thing happened to me. And I'm like, that has never happened to my knowledge to any other person in the history of computing. Let's see if we can figure it out. And you'd think maybe, Apple keeps inventing new things to trouble and challenge us. But you would think that at some point, maybe like, oh yeah, that's answer number 35. And it's like, no, I just got one the other day. I was writing a column about somebody asked a question. I'm like, that's a really funny one. I've never had to write an answer to that before. No one has ever asked me. Let's make that a column because other people will probably have that question too and haven't dared to ask.
I love it. What are you doing to Take Control these days?
Well, I'm the executive editor there, which is just a fancy title for saying Joe Kissel, the publisher, needed some help because it's kind of a one-person show. His partner, wife handles financial stuff and marketing and planning, strategic and so forth. But on the editorial side, it's Joe and a variety of editors and writers, including one, Jason Snell. Yeah. And it needed more editorial support and technical consulting and that kind of thing. So we're doing... the boring stuff, which is how do we find more readers because we know they're out there and they're hard to find. But also I'm taking over some editing duties. Josh Centers, longtime Take Control writer, contributor to Tidbits and so forth. He's moving into different content areas. And so he had some books that I'm taking over future editions of with his compliments or with my compliments, however the way that phrase goes. Sure. And I have like 8 books I update that I've written like solo. So I think I'm going to be writing like 13 books a year in some form, like updating, not writing, but way Apple works. I'm working on the iOS basics book, or the iOS iPad OS basics book, which was Joe's idea to have one book about the Mac and one about iPad and iPhone. That would be just, hey, people who don't really, they're new to it, or they're like, I don't know how this interface thing works. They get a book. Perfect sense, right? Well, it's Apple keeps adding stuff. So it's kind of ballooned out of shape a little bit. And I start to go in for the liquid glass has, of course, a bazillion changes. So I go in to make the changes for 26 for iPhone and iPad. I'm like, well, this won't be that bad. I have to do this and this. I'm like, oh, they changed that icon. Oh, just by the way, in health, you no longer favorite something, you pin it and there's a new icon. So it's like fractally unfolding changes, as I'm sure you have also discovered.
So the good news about your projects about 20th and previous century typography is there are very few updates.
It's true. It's been a lot of fun doing those because I get to do, I'm not an academic. Like my terminal degree is a bachelor's in art and literally in art, graphic design. And, but I don't know. I've always had a bug or an itch I wanted to scratch about doing research. I don't know. You know me long enough. I'm always like, how does this thing work?
Lead type is great for scratching itches. So
yeah, so you can reach. I got these old rulers, the pica sticks, the pica poles. You just have a nice little edge on the back. But I just started pulling threads on 2017. A local sort of commercial art school had a letterpress program, and they said, come be our designer in residence for a year and sort out what you want to do. And I said, great. And then I just started doing research and So I've wound up doing both popular stuff, popular in the sense of like people are really interested in it, like how comics are made, which is in bookstores now, very exciting, and which was the whole history of how newspaper comics got printed, which is, completely Baroque and absurd. And then I've also got a chapter in preparation for an Oxford University Press book it's called Printing Things, which is a great title. It's about the material objects of printing from 1400 to 1900. And so it's so meaty. And I wrote about Flong for them, of course. So it has been a very interesting time to be, I had this joke I used to tell. I'd give talks and I'd say, I was trained as a typesetter, and then I moved to freelance journalism. I collect obsolete professions. And people used to laugh, and now they don't laugh. They make noises of sympathy. I'm like, oh, we're at that point. So thank you for supporting freelance journalists at Six Color. But Kickstarter is a way I can find that niche audience that is interested, just enough people interested in a topic that I could never sell to a publisher. They would never sell enough copies. But for me, I can scratch those people's itches too, and it helps me make a living.
Okay, it's since this is Help Me Glenn at Six Colors, I thought we would do a little round of Help Me Glenn here. So John, James, do you have something to ask Glenn? We're gonna put Glenn on the spot here.
I've got one.
Good.
So, as you know, Tahoe is finally getting rid of FireWire support. So how am I going to use my original iPod now, Glenn? It's got my favorite U2 album on it.
Well, you probably can get a FireWire to Thunderbolt connector. What is it? A FireWire to USB?
It's not the connectors. It's the drivers. Like you can adapt it all, but in Tahoe, the FireWire drivers are just gone, so you can do a physical connection and it won't mount. Sorry to jump in, Glenn.
Shoot. Well, obviously, you need to keep an old. For a while, I needed to run Quicken 2007 because the company refused to update it. At one point, I had an old Mac Mini. Actually, there's those mounts for minis. I can't remember the company that makes it, Mac thing or whatever. Anyway, it's Drag thing. I'm thinking of. Sorry. There's a company that makes these mounts for minis, and I had a cheap 2007 era mini screwed to the bottom of my desk, and all I used it for was to screen share over to use Quicken 2007 after it stopped working. So I'm afraid you'll have to keep an old Mac screwed to a desk somewhere and run your YouTube album from that.
You just keep a Sequoia boot drive around, right? Because it's not a physical problem; it's literally an OS problem. Also,
but then you have to reboot. Yeah. Just get an extra Mac. They're like $10.
It's easier that way.
I know, it's hilarious. You can buy it for like $50, $10. I don't know, 300 pounds.
Like an M1 Mac Mini. And James, your favorite U2 album is the Joshua Tree, right?
Yeah, of course.
Octung Baby. I mean, it's not the one everybody's thinking of.
I read this thing about one of the Coldplay band members the other day, and someone was asked. Oh, it was Richard Osman. I'm sorry, he was talking on a podcast. He does the Rest is Entertainment, and I think he was quoting somebody talking about this as someone who worked with a venue and went to pick up the Coldplay. This guy, I can't remember his name, is one of the back. He's not Chris Martin, and picked him up to go to the venue from the Tube in London. And he's like, "Don't you want to get a car to take you there?" And he's like, "Nobody knows who I am." They said, "Does that bother you?" He said, "Listen, I'm going to play the set, then I'm going to go sit in the audience with my family and enjoy the rest of it, and nobody will have any idea who I am. It's fantastic." So, that's nice. I was thinking about 2 of the 4 people in U2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Adam Clayton knows what he did. John, do you have a question for Glenn?
Yeah, I do. I have a slightly less technical question for you, Glenn. I've got a real problem because I've got 10 pounds of sausage that I'm trying to fit into a 5-pound bag, and I'm wondering what I should do.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Let's see. What are you trying to make?
A bag of sausage.
A giant hot
sausage. Well, I think intestine lining is very thinly divisible, so you might be able to take that 5-pound bag and pull another 5-pound bag out from inside it by pulling one lining out of the other. Whoa. And you'd have 2 5-pound bags.
That's gross.
Well,
wow.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
My question there.
My question for you is: should I make a gigantic RAID array out of all those USB flash drives I have around?
Yeah, imagine all the flashing; it would be incredible. Just like all these lights going.
Like I could like plug them all into like a USB hub that's got 10 ports or whatever. I could put 10 of them in there and then like make a RAID out of it. And would that be fast or?
It would be no, it would not
No,
be fast. You
it'd be
shouldn't do it.
terrible.
It's a bad idea, and
All
you
right.
should feel bad.
I do.
I'm looking around my desk, and because SSDs are still so expensive above like certain capacities, like 1 terabyte is pretty affordable. 2 is then you get up to 4, and 4 terabytes are of course like I don't know, they're like 4 times as much as a 2 terabyte because we haven't hit that quantity of manufacture yet. What happens? I don't know. I was gonna say soon, but not with the world global nonsense going on. But so I look around my desk and I've got a USB hub and a Studio Mac and a Thunderbolt 4 hub, and I have 4 different 2 terabyte drives plugged in, all blinking happily because I'm using these for network, time machine, external photo, because I've got a 1 terabyte drive inside my Studio Mac because it's so expensive to buy the higher capacities from Apple. So
Right.
I've got, I think, 8 terabytes. Then I've got a 12 gigabyte HDD that's RAID 0, so mirrored, for backup because I need another set of backups. And I've had hard drives fail multiply over the last 15 years, more times than ever before that last 15 years. So I've got that backup plus Backblaze plus Time Machine. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for being our special intro guest this week
It
on
is
Connected.
a great pleasure, and I'll be looking forward to my check for the all the membership fees for not having to listen to me.
That's right. Just remember, for everybody out there, if you pay for Connected Plus Pro, you wouldn't have to have heard this. So please do that.
My power grows.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Connected number 566. This one is brought to you by Ecamm, Celtrios, and Sentry. I'm one of your co-hosts, John Voorhees, and as instructed by connectedinfo.com/JJJ, I am now required to introduce my co-host, the Grand Admiral Pinkerton, Mr. Jason Snell. Hey, Jason.
Hey, John. It's good to be here. As always, ahoy to all out there. It's my pleasure to be required to introduce our other co-host, 2025 Jamesy's champion, James Thompson. Hi, James.
Hi. I think it's important for people to unexpect the expected.
Oh.
You never know who might appear and when, and sometimes it's even a surprise to the people involved.
Yeah. I mean, I think Glenn was surprised that he was on a podcast, but
I think he was. He seemed a little shell-shocked.
We woke him up from hibernation.
he doesn't talk a lot, though, so he was very quiet.
No, he
quiet
doesn't.
guy. Quiet guy. You got to get him going. We should do some follow-up, I think. I have an update. A couple weeks ago on the show, I was looking at my server, and I opened SoftRaid, and it said a disk is predicted to fail in the next 30 days, which is not a great thing. These are spinning disks, which seem so primitive, but SSDs are just too expensive even now. So on the show, I bought a drive. The drive came, and I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. And I just wanted to do the follow-up here. I wouldn't say it was hard. I would say that it took forever. So I use SoftRaid. So I went to OWC's website, and they've got a whole thing of like, what happens if you get the warning, like the smart status says this drive is going to fail, which is great because you can replace it before it fails. That's nice. And they said, well, okay, here are your steps. First thing you're going to do is you're going to, I think basically it's like verify or certify or whatever it is, the existing volumes. And this is a thing you can do where you basically say, I'm going to replace a drive, but first make sure that all the content is as it should be, which is available on all the drives, and that they're all lined up in parallel, because it's safer that way. And I'm like, great. But, my RAID is 2 8-gig drives and 2 12-gig drives. I guess technically that RAID is 4 8-gig partitions because they all have to be the same size. And then I use 2 4-gig partitions for a different RAID for backup. So I don't know if you guys know this, but spinning disks are really slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
To verify, it took 3 days.
3 days?
Then
Oh my gosh.
I could remove the disk from the enclosure and put in the new disk, and then it says, okay, now you need to certify the new disk, which took several more days because it has to write and check the writes on a 12 terabyte drive.
Yeah.
And then you add it to the RAIDs, and it slowly copies all of the redundant and parity data and all of that over to the drive, which took several other days. So here I am 2 weeks later, and I can report that like 3 days ago, my RAID was completely back up and functioning normally. And so that's my story is Amazon got me a drive in 24 hours. The rest of it took like 10, 11 days to get through it all. But my RAID's back now, and
that's wild.
Yay!
That's good. That's good. Where do you have that like in relationship to where you work? Because the thing about spinning hard drives is the noise and the heat and all that bugs me.
I hate the sound of it. It sounds like, I always say it sounds like a percolator on like a coffee maker, which I don't drink coffee, but it's that thing. It's like
right
all the time.
It's a weird irregular sound.
And that would be the number one reason to move to SSD. Except again, I would pay thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, for the amount of storage you have. Yeah.
So the way I have it is, it used to be, there was a point it started in my office and I couldn't take it anymore. So I moved it, and my kids are out of the house now.
Mm-hmm.
So during the school year, I have it in a closet in Julian's room behind a sliding door. There's Ethernet in there, there's power in there. And even though you can kind of hear it, it's really muffled, and that's great. But Julian has been coming home for the summer from college. And so for summers, it takes its summers in the back bedroom, which is Jamie's bedroom. It moves into the corner there. Like, it knows what it did. It just sits in the corner. And I don't want to leave it there because it's down on the floor, so it's dustier and it's damper, and like it's better in the closet. But there's no other place to put it. And Julian has also complained about the sound of the thing. So that's the answer. Is it's like I try to move it away from everybody it will annoy if possible. That's my mom is staying here this week, and she's staying in Jamie's room, and she hasn't complained about it, but I'm sure she thinks it's just another weird sound going on in our weird technological household. But like,
what happens if Jamie's home too, though? I bet her hearing's probably
she doesn't live here anymore.
She's younger,
so she just visits. But yeah, then she has to hear it, and I've looked into like putting it in a soundproof enclosure or something like that. But again, those cost a fortune, and at that point, I should just get SSDs. So I just keep moving it around.
Just buy it its own apartment that it can live in.
Well, great idea. Put it in a shed in the back. The problem there is then there's spiders and stuff. There's spiders out here too. Anyway, yeah. So that's my RAID update. It's currently, and yes, I did all of this sitting on the floor in Jamie's bedroom because that's where it is right now. I did use an iPad to connect to it using screens, so I didn't actually have to bring another computer because it doesn't have a monitor attached to it. It's just a server that sits in the corner. It's a Mac Mini attached to a giant RAID box. But anyway, 2 weeks later,
I recently decommissioned a Mac Mini server. I had a 2018 Mac Mini, and I was tired. I wasn't using it for as much anymore, and it was just sitting there sucking electricity and making heat. So I got rid of it.
Yeah, I hear it.
My bit of infrastructure is that I have finally finished upgrading all of my internal home Ethernet to 2.5 gigabit. And this is in preparation for some Wi-Fi 7 6 gigahertz access points that will actually use it and allow me to talk from one side of the flat to the other at high speed. But I had to buy a bunch of TP-Link switches, some USB-C 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapters for like the older computers that don't have it. And also discovering that almost every single Ethernet cable that I have here is terrible and cannot work. But thankfully, the big long one, when I first bought that, I spec'd it out as 6E or whatever the top was at the time, and it still works fine.
Okay,
but all
big
the
long
short
one.
cable.
I'm going to stop you. Big long one. The implication there is that you have your infrastructure for your flat includes a Ethernet cable that just runs through the flat.
It does, because you don't understand that this building is made of pure lead.
Yeah,
and
I've been in it. I do understand it. It's amazing that Wi-Fi gets through.
Well, it doesn't, which is why I have the cable. But it's now working, and I can see the little lights. Like, you get a different light if it's doing 2.5, and I'm very happy when I see those lights. And I did a like we had got a new backup disk like you, and I was trying to like move a ton of data onto it, and I did that over the 2.5, and it was running at really, really fast speeds, and so I was quite happy with that. But what I'm not going to do is do this major networking infrastructure upgrade and then immediately move house, because that would be madness, and who would do that?
I don't know, James. I mean, maybe you've been in that flat a very long time. Maybe you'll be out in the next year. Maybe just like that. This is what causes it.
Well, I'm
could
hoping
be.
to just blanket the entire network, the entire neighborhood in my Wi-Fi signals, so nobody else can get any, and they will all leave.
You know, my neighbor across the street, we spent last summer putting in solar and new HVAC and a new roof. And then she came over to me at the end of the process and said, "So are you moving?" I was like, "What? No, this is the opposite of that. I'm not moving. I just spent all this money on my roof.
You're nesting.
I am staying here if at all possible." So did you talk about your cables being bad? Do you have like a cable tester? Did you do that? Because I am convinced that some of my cables are bad.
I do not have one. I'm sure you can buy one, and I would like one. All I was going on was plugging the first few in and it not doing 2.5 and going,
that'll be a giveaway. Doesn't turn the light on.
It doesn't turn the light on. You get the boring light. But then looking at the actual cables, and they're all like Cat 5. And it's like, this is like when you have all the HDMI cables lying around in a drawer, just get rid of them. Put them in electronics recycling, because they're not going to work. At the point in the future where you need a lead and you grab one of those, you're going to be bitterly disappointed because it's not going to do HDMI 2.1, 2.2, whatever.
I just did cable reorg, and I bought a bunch of new little bags to put the cables in. I did it my last cable reorg. I looked it up. It was like 7 or 8 years ago. Wow. And I did discover I've got some USB-C plugs that are like bent, and I was like, okay, that's just going in the trash. But what I really need to do is get a cable tester, because I'm convinced that some of them are just bad. But yeah, it's hard to tell on site with bad cables. You have to test them. John, your compatriot from Mac Stories, Federico Vitici, has been talking with my compatriot from Upgrade, Mike Hurley, about a singing Italian rabbit that Mike's daughter loves. And Federico visited London in order to go see Oasis, and also saw Mike and saw the rabbit and got to interpret the rabbit's, I think, just translated from English, a song that nobody actually sings in Italian. But the origin of this is you are the root cause of this, and I don't think anybody's really had you do a deep dive into the origin of the singing Italian rabbit. So I was wondering if you might be able to address that now on our podcast here.
Yes. I haven't talked about the Italian rabbit, and I think, in fact, Federico went to London to see the Italian rabbit, and he just got a bonus of seeing Oasis at Wembley at the same time. But
I specified it was supposed to be Oasis and Italian rabbit. That was
right. It was the Italian rabbit. Oh yeah, and he saw Oasis. But yeah. So here's the thing. I have 3 kids, and one of the things you learn as a young parent is that your friends and family will torture you with loud, large toys for your children that you will have to suffer through as a parent for many years. And so I have a policy with new parents that I know of just paying that forward and doing the same thing. And it goes back. The Italian rabbit has an origin beyond the Italian rabbit, which is the singing elephant.
What?
Because when
what nationality is the elephant?
Yeah, this is actually a true UK elephant, because when Rob Knight, who's my co-host on Ruminate, when his first daughter was born, I went on Amazon UK and I found this very cute elephant that sang a little song, and his ears flapped as he was singing. I thought, well, this is perfect. Rob will suffer. So I got Rob the UK elephant that actually spoke proper English, and his daughter loved it. His daughter absolutely loved it. It's what kept her falling asleep for months and months when she was a little baby. And then, fast forward a couple of years, and Mike's daughter is born. And I thought, well, I don't, this was a big hit in the Knight household. I think I'm going to get something similar, but you don't want to regift. I didn't want to do the same thing.
Vary it
Mike.
a little.
So I want to vary it. So I went for the rabbit. And at the time, I was poking around in Amazon UK. I didn't pay a lot of attention. And apparently the rabbit spoke Italian, not English. I sort of assumed that on the UK website that the children's toys would speak English, not Italian. I thought that made sense. It turns out, if you read through the reviews, a lot of people gave it glowing reviews, but there were a lot of, but it speaks Italian, not English. I missed that part, but I ordered the rabbit for Mike and Adina and their daughter, and it too has become a big hit in their household, which Mike says helps his daughter fall asleep, and it just so happens that it speaks Italian. Which when Mike texted me and said, "Did you get a rabbit that sings Italian on purpose?" I was like, "Well, no." And that's how the Italian rabbit happened. It was an attempt at a different animal that would sing children's songs to a new baby, and it went a little bit off the rails with the Italian aspect, but yeah, I think it was still a hit nonetheless.
I feel like you've added important texture to the lore here with the introduction of a new character, the singing elephant, though. I think
yes.
I don't know why we didn't know about that before, but seems like crucial information now to me.
It's very important.
All right, well, we are going to take an ad break now to all of you listeners who heard Glenn, because you're not a member, and we're not allowed contractually to read the ads. So we've gotten one of the founders of Relay, Stephen Hackett, to do it. Stephen?
This episode of Connected is made possible by Ecamm. If you're looking to get into video, you need Ecamm. Ecamm Live is the leading video production and live streaming studio built for the Mac. It's great for streaming, recording, podcasting, and presenting. If you want to stand out from the crowd, you need high-quality video, and Ecamm makes that possible. You can screen share, use multiple cameras, and even direct the show in real time with their live camera switcher. Of course, we all know the Mac is great for multimedia. That means you're going to have images, other video clips, lower thirds, graphics. You can do all of that with Ecamm, and that's what I love about it. It makes it really easy to mix live video and other assets. For instance, if you're on the pro level plan, you can enjoy Ecamm for Zoom. You can send Ecamm Live's audio and video output into a Zoom meeting, webinar, or event, and add up to 8 Zoom participants as camera sources in your broadcast or recording. And that's all really cool. But as a bonus, you can automatically create individual participant audio and video recordings and add Zoom chat messages to your broadcast or recording as text overlays. That's what I mean when I say Ecamm is really integrated with all the stuff that makes the Mac great. Their members are marketing professionals, podcasters, musicians, church leaders, bloggers, and content creators of all kinds. And you can get 1 month free by going to ecamm.com/connected and using the code CONNECTED at checkout. That's 1 month free of Ecamm Live at Ecamm, ECAMM, ecamm.com/connected. Go there now and check it out. Be sure to use the code CONNECTED at checkout. Our thanks to Ecamm for their support of the show and all of Relay.
Beta Brigade time. Choo, choo, choo. Beta Brigade. Beta Brigade. I thought it would be fun if we checked in with James to see how the 26 betas are going for James, because James is a user of software and also a developer of software, and that's got to be fun this summer. So, James, how are 26 betas going for you?
It's been interesting. Some challenging life events meant that I skipped out on doing peak out updates in 2024 entirely. So now I get to do both the iOS 18 updates and the iOS 26 updates in the space of 2 months, which is super fun and not at all stressful. And stuff was kind of broken right at the start. So I looked at it and I said, I'm not going to deal with that problem right now. And I may have spent basically a month after WWDC, working on another secret relay project as a distraction from the aforementioned life events. And all I can say is that I spent a lot of time looking at stills from a show on Apple TV, and I will say no more. But iOS 26 is less terrible on device than I was actually expecting. Liquid glass is fine in most places until the point when it's really not. And you remember why putting your user interface on a piece of transparent glass is something that we only typically do in sci-fi movies. And I can see it driving a lot of people to the accessibility settings, a lot more people this time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a failure of design. But, I will grumble about UI designers having young eyes because mine are definitely not at this point. But, it's fine. It's not too bad. Most stuff just works. I mean, most stuff in pCalc, actually, it really just worked out the box when I recompiled it. Most of my UI is either entirely custom stuff or it's entirely native stuff. So it's fine. Things work. And the main thing that hit me on iOS is there's a new icon format across, it's across all the systems. And it's actually good. It's all vector based finally. So like previously, you had to include like these 1024 by 1024 ping images in your app of every icon. And if, like me, you have, say, 50 to 60 alternative icons in your app, that was a lot of data to include. And now you build your icons out of like vector SVG pieces, and then there's an app where you apply effects to them, like highlights and shadows and various translucency things, and then it just spits out a little icon file. And my main icon file is something like 6K. So, and it looks pretty much as good as the previous stuff. So that's great, but I needed to redesign about 300 icons. So that's 50 base icons, regular, dark, and tintable variants. And then, because the corners are a different radius, I had to go back and redo all of the old ones to match. So I spent about 2 weeks doing this. And you think I've got problems. Underscore David Smith, he's got 88 base icons, he was saying in Widgetsmith. And we both ran into a problem that when you were building your app, it would basically render out these icons into like the high-res versions for older systems. And that was taking me about 10 minutes on a Mac Studio Ultra, just every time I built my app. But thankfully, we worked away around that. And yeah, with the icons, I ended up writing code in Dice by pCalc of all places, which generated the SVG code for me because it knows about pride flags and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So I just said, yeah, just make icons in this style with this thing. And it did all the work. So that was good. Yeah, iPad OS adds a lot of things, a lot more, I guess, than iOS. I mean, if you leave aside the visuals. And like the freely resizable Windows stuff, I'd done a lot of the work for that already for Vision OS. And so that was okay. But these new window controls, like the like close buttons and zoom and all that, they now get slapped on top of your own UI, like up in the corner. And there's an API called the Safe Areas, which says which areas of the screen you should avoid and don't put your UI in there. And it doesn't include this. So if you don't do anything, you just get this thing slapped on top of your buttons. But there's a new super secret, even safer API where you can find out which corners that Apple has decided to steal this year. It's a pain, but I got all that done. WatchOS broke a whole bunch of stuff, killed off my old complications. So I'm currently, as of like half an hour ago, I was rewriting large chunks of that app. Vision OS, almost identical. Doesn't even have really the new controls or anything. I think it will probably get an update in 6 months or a year or whatever.
Of course.
And Mac OS, well, I'm going to install it at some point. And that is a problem for future James.
Future James. That's good. I mean, I like Mac OS Tahoe. John, you and I are on the Mac OS beta beat and review beat.
We are.
And it visually, it's not as dramatic as I think people are fearing, and I think functionally it's got lots of great like reasons to update just to get new features like the model access and shortcuts and the whole clipboard manager and Spotlight updates. What are you thinking about Mac OS?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Mac OS too. I like Tahoe. I think, one of the things that I've noticed, I think that there is a lot of, I don't know if I would call it fear mongering, but it feels like fear mongering amongst people about the design of liquid glass. Because one of the things, last weekend I was with my youngest son. We were on a vacation together, and he was complaining to me because he said that iOS 26 was going to have it was taking all the color out of the icons and they were going to all be clear. I was like, no. I said, that's not how. He said, well, that's what everybody's saying on, like TikTok and Instagram. Basically, that is the new look of iOS 26, which, yes, you can do clear icons, but you don't have to. It's not even the default. So I kind of put that to rest. But I think that there's a lot of focus on some of the more extreme aspects of the UI design. And on the Mac, it's really a pretty mild implementation. I think I'm not sure where it's going. This is the big mystery to me. And I'm curious what you think, Jason, because on the one hand, there are some apps that have, I would say, a glassier feel to them than others. For instance, I think like Journal and Home and even Music all have much more clearer buttons and aspects of liquid glass that you see on iOS. Whereas if you look at things like Safari or Finder, you don't have that same kind of clear button look. And there are other differences with those apps, things like, more drop shadows and more of an elevated look to buttons over the UI. But they're not clear in the same way. They're just more translucent than they used to be. And I kind of wonder whether that's going to be made consistent going forward, whether Apple hasn't gotten to all the apps, whether Apple just has priorities that are elsewhere, which I think is really kind of what I think is going on. But I wonder where we land, kind of, even if the priorities aren't there, where do we land with, is Mac OS going to at some point in the future become consistent? And what's the consistency going to be? Is it going to be the more clear look, or is it going to be maybe the more Finder translucency look? I tend to think it's going to be the clearer look. It's just going to take maybe another turn of Mac OS before that happens.
We might end up somewhere in the middle between the two. But I think there's two things. One, I think with these OS updates, they're basically doing what feels like 2 years worth of stuff in a year, and just haven't had the time to touch a lot of things. Like I was saying about Vision OS not really having had the same visual makeover, really, even though the others are allegedly inspired by the Vision OS look. But I think with the apps, you need like somebody who is assigned to that app, who's looking after it, kind of thing, that has the time to do it. And I just don't think they have the people to go in and give everything a makeover, in one go. But the question is, are they going to be any less busy next year? And I guess we'll find out.
As I know everybody says, oh, Apple is so huge, but like the people who implement some of these specific details it's not so huge. It's a smaller group.
Right.
And I agree with both of you. I think Mac OS is just not a priority, and I think that's okay. Obviously, the iPhone is the number one priority. It's always going to be that. I think iPad OS comes along for the ride to a certain extent, obviously, and so it picks up a lot of this stuff. I also think that liquid glass makes the most sense on iOS and a little less sense on iPad OS and a lot less sense on Mac OS, especially now. And John, you asked about consistency. First off, I could argue that maybe the Mac is the least consistent and always has been, because developers can kind of do whatever. But I think your prediction is exactly right, which is it's going to take time. Like James said, there will be progressions, I think, in this cycle, and then there will be progressions in next cycle. And I think what will happen is developers will update their apps and Apple will update its apps. And it, as with any change on Mac OS, it isn't just, flip a switch and it changes. It's more like we start the process of changing, and then it changes over time. And I'm okay with that. I would honestly rather have the macOS design partially implemented and it be usable than to have it be kind of badly implemented and broken for a while. And the thing I keep coming back to with Tahoe is it is completely usable. And some of the worst offenders in terms of like design things that, because it shipped almost unimplemented. Like there were things that were so messed up, and it's fine, right? The bad stuff has mostly been cleared out. And it's completely usable. I've spent, there are a couple bugs in the last couple of betas, but for the most part, this summer is just, I've been using the beta on macOS and it's been fine. So I think in the end, the Mac will just, wherever it's going, it will be less than iOS always, but I think it will become more consistent over, really over a couple of years, probably.
Our basic OS reviews are, it's fine.
Yes, it's fine. Well, getting away from the design, though, I do have a few things that I really do like that I think a lot of people will like, and one that I don't like so much. But the things that I really like are the automations and shortcuts. Finally, you can set a shortcut to run on a schedule, which makes a lot of sense if you have a desktop Mac, right? There's a lot of other triggers besides, date and time, but that one alone is worth its weight in gold.
Well, the folder stuff for me is huge because
folder too.
If you're using or not using Hazel, either way, there was this folder action thing that they added in OS 8, and then they added again in like Jaguar, and now it's there's a native folder action automation in shortcuts that is really good and works very well.
Right. And I'm a big fan of Spotlight. I think Spotlight's really great. Mm-hmm. I think it'll solve a problem for the majority of people, except for maybe the high-end power users, and that has been, satisfied by launcher apps for a long time. I've been using it.
I have that marker.
Yeah, I've been using it, and I don't miss using Raycast, which I was using before, except for I do appreciate still Raycast's clipboard manager, which is better than the Apple one, because Apple's, I don't mind that Apple's is limited to 8 hours, because the times that I go back farther than the last 8 hours are very rare. But I do like having a handful of things that I send out to people by email and things regularly pinned in my clipboard manager where it's easy to access them. That's one of the things I use the most.
There's some stuff in, I stopped using LaunchBar, and I am using the clipboard manager because I don't have those sort of fancy needs for it. But, the question with some stuff is going to be, is there a different way for you to get that feature that you don't need to use Raycast for? Because it's not quite clipboard management, right? It's more like a snippet management thing.
Yep.
And that's fine. I mean, I think that different people are going to use them in different ways. The one that I keep hitting on is LaunchBar had emoji pickers in it, so that I could do command space and start typing the name of an emoji, or type command space emoji tab and then the name of an emoji. Either one would work, and it would just insert an emoji wherever I was going. And now I've had to use other means, whether it's Apple's thing, which I don't really love, or Rocket, which is a utility that's okay, but it's not great, but it's okay. And that's one of those things that I stumble on, where it's like it covers almost everything I use LaunchBar for, except for this one thing that I'm going to have to find a different workflow for if I'm going to stay off of LaunchBar. And Hazel.
No, a couple of things I don't like a lot. I do like Control Center a lot, although one thing, I don't know if this is just me, but my third-party Control Center widgets have disappeared in the latest beta update. I don't know. I only had a couple of them that developers who are way out ahead of the curve had shared with me in betas, but those are now blank and they're not listed in the gallery at all anymore. So who knows what's going on there. Hopefully that reappears in a beta or two. And I'm not a fan of having the play controls at the bottom of music. That really bugs me. I understand why you do that on iOS with the, with a handheld device. On the Mac, it just gets in the way of the content.
Yeah, it's literally covering content for no reason, and that's a long-standing feature of iTunes and music that should just on the Mac be. It doesn't need to be covering content and having content distorted behind it, making it hard to use. And it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I have a very big screen. I'm not needing to save the pixels or whatever. Just put everything outside. Let me see.
Well, yeah. I get that it's the family resemblance with iOS, but my frustration there is that music on the Mac doesn't work like iOS. The lyrics are in a different place. There's a mini player that behaves differently. There's a full screen mode, which does sort of what the music on iPad and iPhone do, but it's the wrong context because I don't want it in full screen on my Mac, but that's the only way to get that view. Like,
Yep.
I would be okay if they're like, everything is like iOS now. I'd be like, okay. But instead, it's like they just made this cosmetic change because they could and left
Right.
everything else using these weird things that go back a couple of decades. And I don't like it. I really do like the concept in Control Center. I think people over time are going to really appreciate it because they're basically building
Yes.
a whole menu bar manager using Control Center into macOS as default. I think it's going to be great, especially as third-party apps embrace it. But because you can be in the menu bar or in a Control Center dropdown, and you can have multiple Control Center dropdowns, I think it's going to be a real a find for people. And I think Apple, if it commits to it over time, I think apps are going to all support it, and then that's going to be like the way we do menu bar stuff going forward. But it's early, and it's going to take the third parties to embrace it. And I haven't heard from third party developers about like, it being there is one thing, but the third party developers actually have to see value in it and say that it's worth implementing, or because if they turn their backs on it, then it won't work.
I haven't turned my back on it. I just haven't installed it yet.
Okay,
Okay,
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, no, I think it'll catch on. I actually do think that one will catch on. On music though, the thing that really bugs me about the cosmetic change is that there's still a lot of problems with that app under the hood. It's such old code.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I tend to AirPlay music from my phone to speakers in my office instead of using my Mac music app because it's just not reliable with AirPlay.
I use it every day on my Mac as well with AirPlay. It can be frustrating. It's not worse in Tahoe, and it might be a little better, but it's still got a bunch of issues. I've got this issue where, like, if my laptop goes to sleep and then I wake it back up and I continue to play on AirPlay, it just plays not on AirPlay and then I have to go to music and set it to not play on AirPlay, even though it's not playing. It thinks it is, and then move it back to those speakers, and then it picks up. It's so frustrating, and it's been there for ages now. My problem, John, is that I've got the muscle memory of using my keyboard on my Mac to do play, pause, and volume control, and taking it to an iOS device. It's just if I have to pick up an iOS device every time I want to change tracks or pause or change the volume, I don't think I can do that yet. But yeah, it's very frustrating. Anybody who uses music on the Mac all the time will tell you that there's so many old, broken, weird things in it that's why I almost would be willing. Well, the original sin here is turning iTunes into music. They should have left iTunes in its final state and then added a music app that was the iOS music app and let people choose which one they wanted to use. Because, I have a lot of uploaded music using like iTunes Match and all of that, or the equivalent in Apple Music. You can do that. And I'm glad it's there. I don't want a pure Apple Music client, but the music app obviously gets all the attention, and iTunes or music on Mac is still kind of broken, and they're never going to fix that stuff. So
no, I agree. I mean, using iOS instead of the Mac is not an ideal solution, but I have been driven that direction sometimes, unfortunately.
Wow. All right, we are going to move on, and that means it's time for another sponsor break. For those of you who heard Glenn, also get to hear this from Stephen Hackett.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Celtrios, the shoot 'em up game with a tiny ship, big weapons, waves of foes, power-ups, and obstacles. Celtrios has no ads, no in-app purchases, no subscription, and nothing is locked. And it's only for Apple platforms, so you can get it on your Mac, iPhone, iPad, and even play on the big screen with Apple TV. There are 13 stages of the game, and you can start from any of them. Plus, you can resume play later if the app is quit. There's a lot to love about this game. You have tons of ways to play with customization to keep it fresh, like ship configuration, dozens of abilities, Mac full screen options, randomizing, and hard mode. Plus, there's a huge high-quality soundtrack with over 45 minutes of music. And the game keeps expanding. There have been over 90 free updates so far, and the entire thing was made by an indie developer. You can play solo or grab a friend for 2-player, And your Mac supports various inputs, so you can grab a controller if you're on iOS. If you love traditional shoot 'em ups or you just want a quality game that's fun to play again and again with none of the other annoyances that most games have, Celtrios is for you. The Mac version is on Steam with a free demo, and the iOS and tvOS versions are in the App Store. So go to kevingrant.name/apps to learn more, or click the link in the show notes to let them know you came from this show. That's kevingrant.name/apps. Our thanks to Celtrios for their support of the show and all of Relay.
Okay, it's time. It's time for something new. A new thing that we're doing here for the very first time due to reasons that we're about to explain, involving the recent amendment to the Pickies Charter. And so I ask all of you to please remain in the position of your choosing for the reading of the all-new revised Picky Charter Ultra Plus, most recently amended during our Constitutional Convention on Jason Voorhees Day, which is the first Friday the 13th of the year. That was June 13th, 2025. Take it away, James.
So, as you all know, I won the annual Jamesies competition this year by correctly doing everything that I predicted that I was going to do a year ago today. And because of that completely uncontroversial win, I was able to play my Chaos card from that and amend the Charter in a completely fair and balanced way, with no additional checks or balances needed. Did I find a loophole in the system that I'm going to exploit like a wish for infinite wishes? Was I just disappointed that I wasn't winning? Yeah. Well, you'll see.
Well, James, this just doesn't seem right. But there are technically no rules against it. So I guess having a really simplified set of rules doesn't always work out the way you intended.
I guess that's the lesson here. All right, here we go. Every year we play 3 games and predict what will happen at WWDC, what will happen during the autumnal season, and over the course of the entire year.
James always picks first. John then flips a coin to see who goes second.
For the autumnal pickies, everyone picks 5 things that they think will happen between September 1st and our annual Pickies episode at the end of the year. James gets an additional 6th pick because he just plain deserves it.
Oh boy. In the case of a tie, there are multiple winners, unless one of those winners is James, in which case he wins by default.
There shall be no disputes over scoring because we are all just inherently honorable people, especially James, who is the most honorable.
I like how you talk about yourself in the third person, James.
It's just the rules. I
I'm just
can't
reading the
help it.
rules here.
At the end of each round, Jason and John, speaking in the third person about myself now, will alternate saying something nice about James.
I can't believe this got in here. James will say thank you very much, and then we move on to the next round.
It's so nice of you both. I really appreciate it.
All right, let's get started. John flipped a coin before the show, and he won. So we're going to place him second, and I'll be third. James, of course, has to go first. It's in the rules. Round 1 of the Autumnal Pickies inaugural edition. James, what's your first pick?
I am picking that an M5 Pro or M5 Max chip is going to ship before the end of the year.
Whoa, interesting.
Right out of the gate,
In
he's
what?
really going strong.
In what?
We will find out.
All right.
Maybe in a robot.
All right. So my first pick, I think, is a pretty safe one, which is that the AirPods Pro 3 are going to be released this fall.
I think that's a good one. That was on my list. It's been a long time since the AirPods Pro 2.
It has been. It's been like at least a year and a half, hasn't it?
I think it's one of Apple's it's a couple of years at least.
I guess it was a fall release.
I mean, they keep doing silent revs to them as well. So
yeah, it's such a, I think it's actually one of Apple's low-key, most popular products.
Oh, yeah.
And Pro 3, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I wonder what will happen.
I think you can tell that the new ones are coming because they've been on constant sale on Amazon for like the last 2 months.
Yeah, probably so. A new iPhone will be less than 6 millimeters thick. but not as thin as an iPad Pro.
What's the Pro again? Is it 5?
5.3, I want to say 5.2.
Oh, wow.
You're not giving yourself much margin here.
No.
I'm buying into the 5.5 millimeter thickness. But look, I'm bringing the passion. We know this about me. I bring the passion to these picks.
You do.
You do.
But now I need to give James a compliment. So I'm going to say, James, you are so good at this that you don't need the passion. You are cold and meticulous, and that's what's brought you all of this way.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Stone cold killer.
Round 2.
One of the new phones has an 8x or greater optical zoom. I picked 10 initially, and then I thought, nope, there's no way it will be 10. So, it could be 6, but I'm going to say 8 or more.
I think that's probably a pretty good pick. I'm going to go with the Apple TV gets an update, and I'm not entirely sure why, personally, because I'm not sure that the last update of the Apple TV was really all that necessary, but a faster chip might open up, Apple's eternal pursuit of gaming on some sort of device that they make. So having more storage space and a faster chip will make that easier to get some of those bigger name games on the TV. So I think that's why they might do it.
I look forward to making emoji on my television.
Every time I hear new Apple TV hardware described as being a gaming play, I mean, first off, I pass out briefly, and then I wake myself up because Apple and games. I don't disagree. I feel like though, if Apple wants to make gaming on the Apple TV a thing, it kind of needs to make it a thing. I was thinking about this, like if you're gonna do this, like sell a SKU with a controller, like sell a gaming edition or something that really makes the point that you can play games on this thing. You can't. Just having games that are available for it if you go and buy a controller is, I mean, it works, but I feel like if they're going to do this, like it's the usual story, which is Apple and gaming, where it just sort of happens, but Apple sometimes I think doesn't try.
Yes. And this is the least amount of try you can possibly do is putting in a better chip just to tell people that you can play games on the Apple TV.
It's the standard thing. If it's not included in the box, only a tiny percentage of your audience are going to buy it. Yeah. So put the controller in the box, put some Go Faster stripes on the side of the thing or whatever, make it a special edition.
Maybe a special color.
And throw in Apple Arcade on it or something.
Yeah, throw in a year of Apple Arcade or something for free. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, meanwhile, the rest of the gaming industry continues on in much faster direction elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think Apple's model would be, can we be because Apple is successful in gaming because of the iPhone, right? And that gives them games that they can. I feel like there are alternate paths. Nintendo shows that there are alternate paths for games. Apple could. I can't believe we're even talking about this. I shouldn't have even brought it up because it's like we always talk about the possibility and then it never happens. I'm going to just move on. Like sure, theoretically, Apple could do something with games and people could do it, but that won't happen.
But they won't.
So
yeah, it won't happen.
Why am I even? I learned this lesson. When I was at Macworld in the 90s. It's just
it's the real
it's not
Lucy's
any
football of Apple.
It is. It really is. We did an episode with that title. Okay, here's my pick. Because this is the autumnal pickies and the Emmy Awards are awarded in September, I'm going to say Apple TV Plus shows will win several Emmy Awards, but not the most of any outlet. So Apple will have a good Emmys, but not the greatest of Emmys. I think they'll get beat out by probably HBO. So that's my
that's a good call.
Emmy related. Since we have the ability, all of the fall, all of the autumn stretches before us, I thought I would throw in an Emmys pick there. That's the best.
Yeah, I do think they're going to win a lot. I think they've had a really good, solid year of new shows, but
tough competition. Does feel sort of like it's Severance's year, but we'll see.
Yep. Well, I have a compliment for you, James, and I just want to say that there is no blue deeper and better than the icon of PCalc than your deep blue eyes.
Oh, that's lovely.
Whoa.
I've spent a lot of time looking at one of those two things over the last few months.
It sounds like it.
Sure. All right, round 3.
Okay, I'm going to say a new Apple Studio display will be introduced with a better camera that I'm not going to complain about, unlike the one I have.
All right. I think that at least one Apple Watch is going to be released that doesn't need an iPhone to use the Workout Buddy. I'm a little obsessed with the Workout Buddy because I feel like it's one of those features that Apple has put out into the world kind of half-baked on purpose, and that we're going to get to the point relatively soon. This fall may end up being too soon, but I'm hopeful that we'll get a chip enhancement of some sort, or maybe it's the 5G connectivity that's been rumored in the Apple Watch that will allow the watch to do that kind of AI processing without having to have your phone along, for anybody who, wants to go out for a jog without bringing their phone, for instance.
I mean, Apple Intelligence is just branding, right? So they could do this feature and not brand it as Apple Intelligence if they wanted to. They could just make it a feature. It does seem like, I get why they're doing it, but you've sniffed something here, John, that I think is really smart, which is Apple does like this thing where they sometimes introduce a feature and it's got all these limitations, and then in the fall when the OS is shipped, they're like, oh, also it's a hardware feature, right?
Yep.
And so this would be a perfect example of like Series 11 and Ultra 3 just have Workout Buddy regardless of whether you've got your phone nearby. It's an interesting idea. I think they need to focus on making Workout Buddy useful. Boom.
Yes, there's that too.
Because it's literally like, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe it's gotten better in the betas, but the demos that they give at WWDC usually reflect what they think the feature should be. And I could not have been less impressed with Workout Buddy at WWDC, because all it seemed to be doing is doing text to speech to tell me about stats that are shown in the Apple Watch activity app.
Yeah.
Like you ran 2.1 miles, or doing great, you just passed 1 mile. And like, I mean, I have apps that also do that. I turn all that off because I actually don't want to hear it. And maybe that's part of it too. But it's like, if you're going to have a synthesized voice give me insights, I'd like them to be insightful, I guess. And I don't find it insightful.
I also don't want fake enthusiasm from a robot.
Yeah, it's gotten a little better in that it will surface things that are more like in the tracking in activity, and the tracking, where it'll be like, oh, you went farther today than you've gone all month, or something better. Along those lines.
That's better.
So it's doing that, and I found that it's more consistent, because I had trouble in the early betas where I think it showed up maybe once out of like 10 walks that I went on. So, but it seems to be settling down and catching its groove at this point.
Well, since my M5 pick was stolen from me, I'm going to go in a different direction now and say Apple will release a heartwarming film, which is, long commercial, for the holiday season. They usually do that.
Yep.
I'm not predicting the weird controversy that will be, attempted to be caused by some website declaring something is bad about it, which will certainly also happen, but I'm not going to pick that. Just that once again, we'll get a heartwarming film from Apple for the holiday season. They love it. James, one of my favorite things about you is that you are Scottish. And one of the great things that Scotland and the entire United Kingdom has given us is the concept of the holiday film, and the holiday special, because I feel like when Apple does these things, they're really catering to you and your market, and the rest of us just get to enjoy the extended 2 minutes of snow and Apple products. So well done, Scotland. Well done, UK. You get this one. You win this one. That's my compliment for you.
Thank you very much. I will accept on behalf of Scotland.
Round 4.
Right, round 4. I think Apple will drop a promo for their Neuromancer TV show based on the books by William Gibson. And they were filmed, I think, at the start of this year. So they've probably got enough footage to put something together. I think we've seen one still
of a set. Yeah.
Of a set. So I think we will probably, it's been a little while since we've had something, so I think they'll want to drop a little trailer so that we get excited for that show.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've heard anything about it. I wouldn't be surprised if we got this around the holiday season, just to kind of get people, I don't know, excited.
Buy your Apple TV, your new Apple TV.
Right.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, my pick is that Apple is going to make an acquisition that's reported to be valued at more than $5 billion.
Woo!
All right, I went back and looked, and Beats was purchased for $3 billion, and that was quite a few years ago. I think that Apple's going to break the $5 billion barrier. I think personally, this is not part of my pick, but I think personally it'll happen right after Thanksgiving.
Oh.
I worked for far too long in a big corporate law firm where everybody thinks they can get their deals done before the holidays, and they don't. And then a bunch of underlings have to work through the holidays putting together documents. It's absolutely going to happen here. After the Thanksgiving, it'll be like it might even be announced the Friday after Thanksgiving. I feel bad for those lawyers, but not that bad.
Wow. Big news. Are we assuming this is AI related?
I think it's going to be AI related.
Yeah,
I don't know
I think
what
it
else
will be.
would
This
at
plays
point.
into one of my later picks.
Okay.
But yeah.
Wow. That's a risky pick. You're bringing the passion.
I am.
I like it.
That's my riskiest one for sure.
All right, I am going to be a little less risky, but you don't know whether this will happen or not. I'm predicting Apple will continue its winning ways by making yet another newsroom post about a financial commitment it's making to something involving American manufacturing. Just keep it going, keep it rolling.
It feels like a poker game at this point where you have to ante up every few months.
Yep, I think so. So I'm betting on another. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know if it'll be, that we did glass in Kentucky. Is it going to be like action buttons in Iowa? I don't know.
You know what I bet it'll be? I think it'll be the campus in North Carolina, because they announced years ago now that they were expanding into the Raleigh-Durham area.
And it's been stalled.
And then they put it, like, because of COVID in particular, they put it on ice. They do have people there from what I understand, but they put it on the big development on ice for a while. But I think it's still, I think they still have the land, and I could see it being something like that.
They've never called it off, but they could that's one of those great things where you already committed to it, but now you can announce it as if it was a new commitment, even though it's not. Apple breaks ground on new whatever, and maybe that's it. That's a good one.
That feels like, it's like buying yourself a present, we're investing in our campus.
Yeah.
It's like, now you've got a 5 billion campus or whatever.
USA.
Yeah, they can talk about all the people that they're going to employ in North Carolina and like the infrastructure that they're going to build and all that stuff. All right, I have a compliment for James, which is, you know what? There's nothing more soothing and relaxing than to listen to James make his pickies on this show.
Soothing or relaxing, putting you to sleep. Thank you very much.
Round 5.
So I'm going to go negative, sadly. I'm going to say that no new Vision Pro hardware is going to ship before the end of the year, alas. I think, there's certainly rumblings that there's an M5, that it was going to be M4, and now it's going to be an M5 based one. But also, I think it's fair to say that there's not the most excitement about Vision Pro at the moment. And I don't know that just introducing new hardware is going to make that happen, because the hardware we've got is really great. I love the hardware, and some of the features are really good. But, just because we sit around and we have our chats around a virtual campfire in FaceTime, it's not, you don't need an M5 for that. So you're going to need something big. And, we will see, but yes, you can pair the controllers with it, but as we've said previously, if it's not in the box, nobody's going to have them.
What do you think the odds are that Apple opens up the USB-C port on the developer strap to things like Ethernet, for instance?
They really just need to put a standard USB port on those devices. Because the developer strap is A, expensive, B, a hack, and it sticks out.
It's unwieldy.
And then it doesn't work with all the additional straps and comfort things that you can get
Right.
for the Vision
Right.
Pro. I would love to see, just have a charge port that's also a USB-C port and just do it that way or something. Yes, there is the difficulty with their proprietary power connector, but they could do something. They could do something that carried data and had a port down the way or something.
Yeah, their Wi-Fi antennas just are not good on the Vision Pro.
I mean, if they built the batteries into the thing so that they didn't have to have like little dongles hanging off, that would be nice.
I don't think they're going to redesign the hardware, though. I think this is going to be a chip update, is all.
Yeah, and that's just going to be like great. I can do all the same lack of things.
Yeah, the problem is not the hardware. So what's enabled by what's enabled by the M5 or M4 even in a Vision Pro is that they can stop making the M2. I think. I think that's literally it.
Yeah.
John, what do you have?
Oh, I do have another. It's my pick again. All right. So I think Apple is going to introduce at least one new OS feature based on new hardware that wasn't part of the OS 26 betas. And this kind of goes to my previous pick a little bit about the Workout Buddy. I think that unlike the Workout Buddy, though, there will just be a feature that gets sprung on us. This happens with the Apple Watch an awful lot.
Yeah.
But it could also happen with
iPhone cameras. Happens a lot.
Yeah. Yep. Could be happen with the camera. Could happen with a bunch of things. I think the most likely candidates are something like the camera or something related to a sensor on the Apple Watch.
I'll throw in a third possibility here, which is could be an AirPods Pro 3 something.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
that
call.
is enabled on your iPhone when you're using AirPods that does something. I don't even know what. Something magical.
Takes pictures.
Yeah.
Sure.
Little cameras.
I mean, who knows? Anything. It's me. My last pick. I'm going to do it. I'm bringing the passion. I'm going to do it. Yep. Mac Pro will be updated, or at least an update will be announced. Mac Pro. It's happening this fall.
That is a passion one. That is a passion
and
one.
for the
last time, possibly, but this time.
Define updated.
I think it will. I think it will either get the chip that's in the Mac Studio, or it will get a chip that goes beyond what's in the Mac Studio.
I mean, it may depend on what we get, but yes, they could find the M4 Ultra that was down the side of the sofa.
Yeah, maybe
put that in.
I was going to say it'd be very Mac Pro to update it at the end of the year with that chip, and then have the MacBook Pro updated to a better chip right after.
No, do it before. Like do the M5 before.
Talk about losing the football. Here we are.
Yeah,
it's with the Mac Pro. It's John Syracuse on the Mac Pro. All right, James. I have known you longer than almost anybody in the Apple world, going back
That's true.
way, way, way too many years now. And our friendship has been very valuable to me, and I enjoy it. You were also, I will say, one of the first people I knew who understood all of my Doctor Who references and understood about what kind of color blindness I have, because you share it. So thank you for being a friend.
Well,
a good friend.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being a friend too. And yes, I anytime I run into a color issue, I think Jason will have run into that.
It's certainly true. Time for round 6, which is just for James, because James, for all of his compliments, has also just completely hosed us by giving himself an extra pick. Go ahead, James. Fine. Pick again.
I mean, look, this is the riskiest of picks, so I don't think this round 6 is going to make a difference. But I'm going to say that Apple is going to make a significant investment into Anthropic or buy them outright to sort of mirror Microsoft's investments into OpenAI. And Apple needs something. And I think this goes back to the John's acquisition of more than $5 billion. I think they need to spend some of that money on a big company that's got scientists that won't be stolen by OpenAI immediately.
Facebook,
because they're they're having to kind of outsource a whole bunch of stuff because they don't have it in-house. And I think it's hurting them. I mean, I still hate AI, but I think the perception that they're behind is really gonna start costing them, and so yeah, they're gonna open their wallets,
Sure.
and buy something.
But if they buy Mistral, you don't get the point here because
no, I don't. But
for French AI.
I was going for Anthropic because they've been doing there's rumors of Claude stuff going into Xcode, so they've clearly got some kind of relationship there. And that just takes a lunch of Tim Cook saying, how would you like 20 billion?
Well, I think that brings us to the end of the pickies. I think John and I can both compliment you, James, on your ability to create self-serving rules in the pickies.
I think that's the ultimate compliment.
I mean, yes, thank you very much. I'm really enjoying this new charter, and I can't see anything going horribly wrong with it before December.
John, I am looking up when the next Jason Voorhees day is now, because we're gonna. It's in February. Oh, that's good. It's soon. It's in February this year, not or next year, not June. So we don't have to wait until June. We can nip this in the bud.
Good.
Next February 13th. All right.
Look, it's all perfectly legal.
Okay, now it's time for our final sponsor. Here's Stephen Hackett.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Sentry. Broken lines of code, busted API calls, and app crashes. Nobody loves those things. I'm sorry if I had caused you stress, but this is why Sentry exists. It's the only developer-first app monitoring platform built to give you answers, not clues. Sentry gives you tools like error monitoring, distributed tracing, session replays, and 2 freshly minted tools, AI agent monitoring and structured logs, so you can get to the root cause of an issue faster. And it's used by millions of developers, including some of the biggest apps like Claude, Disney Plus, and Duolingo. Here at Relay, we use Sentry on our own CMS. And of course, they have their recently launched new AI agent named Seer, which can automatically generate fixes with over 90% accuracy. This has been great for us on our CMS. It's homegrown, it's just one part-time freelance developer, and so Sentry gives us the tools we need to see what's going on when we have an error to make the most use of his time. And when you sign up, you'll have Seer, Sentry's new AI debugging agent, on hand. It's like hiring an engineer who already knows your entire code base. Seer finds the correct root cause 94% of the time and can even provide merge-ready PRs based on that analysis. So try it free at Sentry.io. That's Sentry, Sentry.io, and tell them that Connected sent you. They have a free dev plan, and listeners of this show can use the code CONNECTED on sign up for 3 months free of their team plan and 150,000 free errors. That's Sentry.io and the code CONNECTED, or click the link in the show notes. Our thanks to Sentry for the support of the show and all of Relay.
Winter Wonderland! Yes, everybody, it's time for the Winter Wonderland segment, one of my favorites. This is when we celebrate winter in the southern hemisphere by having a good time doing something fun.
I was pitching the autumn of adequate, but I got overruled.
Yeah, well, that was not as good. We did the autumn pickies though, but now it's time for Winter Wonderland because we're still in the summer in the northern hemisphere, or more importantly, the winter in the southern hemisphere. And this week it's Connected Q&A, where you, the listeners, have sent in connected Qs, and we are going to A them. And we begin with a letter from D. Griffin, who writes, "What is the best computer shape?"
I'm going to say icosahedron. I haven't seen one, but I think that would be the best computer shape. Give me that D20.
Wow, interesting. Well, Winter Wonderland, it should probably be shaped like a snowflake.
What? I think round. I think the best computer shape is round.
Like sort of BB-8 just follows you around.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the Apple robot?
Or it rolls right off the table. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's an engineering challenge. I love it. Everything has to be completely wireless. Apple's going to love that. They don't want any wires.
No, it doesn't have to have any buttons. It'll just be a sphere.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Okay, Edwin asks, what is the most lemon, I like that phrase, the most lemon piece of tech, the worst, you have ever used?
I'm going to say I very much dislike my Netgear Orbeez that I bought for a lot of money. And A, they could not get a Wi-Fi signal through the walls. And they have recently just started killing all my HomeKit network. So I'm going to be replacing them and going all Ubiquiti soon.
Okay.
Interesting.
I've got one.
What's that?
Because I want to follow up James going all Ubiquiti and say my most lemon piece of tech. I'm holding it in my hand now because I was just digging through all of my old cables, and I found this at the bottom of a bin, completely useless, unplugged. It's a Ubiquiti Edge Router X, which I bought a few years ago, where people are like, "Oh, Ubiquiti makes great stuff, and you need a gigabit or like a 10 gigabit Ethernet switch. Get the Ubiquiti Edge Router X." And its web interface was bad, and it didn't work right, and I unplugged it. So I don't want to hear from people who are like, you're just using it wrong. All I can say is I know a little bit about networking, and I found it completely a waste of time. So this is why I avoid Ubiquiti gear, honestly, as I had such a bad example with this, which I'm going to define as the most lemon piece of tech. John?
All right. I had pretty good luck, but I'm going to pick, I think, my original tour box that I got, which is like one of these, it's a little bit like a Stream Deck, but it's got knobs and buttons and wheels, all different shapes, meant to be used with things like audio editing and video editing applications. And one of the things on it is a D-pad, which is actually really helpful because having a 4-directional pad, it gives you a lot of options and a lot of that kind of software. But the down button just didn't work at all. It was kind of stuck in the chassis. I will say, after they sent me a new one, which I appreciated, and that one worked. I took the old one, I took it apart, and I was able to make it work pretty consistently. So now I have one for my desktop Mac and one for my laptop.
Nice. Nate writes, what's the oldest piece of tech you still use regularly, or at least the oldest you still use occasionally or have around the house just in case? A lot of broad questions here.
I mean, I still have my original USB sound sticks on my desk, although the power supply has started to fail, so it's crackling, and I'm on my second power supply. But that thing is 25 years old and still works, and I challenge anyone to have an older piece of tech that they're using at least enough to know that it's starting to not work.
It's pretty good. John?
I guess I don't have a lot of old tech because I'm constantly buying new things just to test them. And I did just move a few years ago. So probably my TV, which is from 2022 or 2023.
Wow. John's just a new man, a new world man.
I'm just a new guy.
I like John, it's hard for me to pick. I've got a metric time clock that I bought a while ago that it just shows the time and the temperature, and I don't really need it to do much more. So I've got that one. What I want to say is I have a floor lamp in my office.
That's technology.
That dates that it was in my parents' house in the 80s.
Okay,
it's
good.
Adjustable. At one point in the 90s, it was flickering, and I took it to a lamp store, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah." First off, it was the 90s, and he's like, "Oh, they don't make them like this anymore," which is like that was in the 90s, and he rewired it, and since then it's been immaculate. I think everybody else in my life thinks, "Why does Jason like this ugly lamp?" I don't know what to say. They don't make them like this anymore, and now it has a smart bulb in it. So I can control it from my desk. And in fact, when I come into the garage in the morning, I press a button on a smart switch, and this old floor lamp lights up. It's great. So I might argue that the janky 80s floor lamp is my oldest piece of tech. Okay. The EJJ says, what technology are you still awed by, even though it may be old and standard by now? Personally, says the EJJ, I think the world adjusted to fully capable on-device fingerprint scanners too quickly. That's amazing. James, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, on a similar note, I would say wireless communication, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc. I remember playing with an original iBook like sometime before it actually got released when I was working at Apple, and it was just magical. It was like, how does this even work? I know radios and things like that, but it just seemed, I don't know how it works. And now, we sit and like all our game controllers are now wireless, and well, unless you really need the low latency. But I remember sitting there and you have to be within 6 feet of the TV because the lead is this length and things like that. So I think wireless.
I am going to go with the internet. Literally nothing that I do would be possible today if it weren't for the internet.
Oh, that's pretty good. Still awes you even now.
It does. I still feel like it's amazing to me that I can have a conversation with somebody like James off in Scotland, while over the internet, which is for free, because back in the day you would have spent like this call on a long distance phone call in the 80s would have cost probably $150.
Hundreds of dollars, yeah, for sure. I was thinking, I was talking to my friend Greg Noss about this, that we have a Linode that runs all of the Incomparable and some 6-color stuff. And I pay, at this point, it's probably about $120 a month for that.
Right.
But we have an allowance of data that's like, I forget how many terabytes it is a month. And when we started having an internet server that we tried to do a podcast on in like 2007, every download of the podcast cost us money. And the fact that I can spin up a pretty powerful server that runs, a large portion of my business and serves podcasts out to the world. We don't use a CDN for the Incomparable other than the mothership. It's all just served off of Linode, and it cost me $120 ish a month. That's completely wild. And then I'll also throw in face tracking cameras. I have a Insta360 webcam.
Oh yeah.
And I don't use the auto tracking much, but I just, that and even Center Stage, like that continues to wow me. The idea, I do a Zoom call with my wife's family every week or every other week on our TV using Zoom and Center Stage on my iPhone camera. And it is, every time I do it, I think I am now in a sci-fi movie from the 60s, like where they're like, video phones will be ubiquitous and cameras will pan around to, like, I always used to think that movies and TV shows that showed you camera footage, but it was obviously being run by like a camera person who was zooming in and focusing and stuff. And I'd be like, oh, that's so silly. It should be fixed because it's and now I'm like, oh, actually the software is the cameraman on that shot. That still amazes me. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? Chat, I guess, says, what's a skill or habit that you developed in a different job that has helped you in your current career?
What do you mean different job? I've been doing this the whole time.
That's true.
I mean, I've been doing literally this space where I'm currently standing for 25 years. And then before that, 4 years at Apple. And then before that, another 4 years. But I've been writing software and kind of doing the same thing the whole way. The only job that I had that wasn't that was working in the money room of Tower Records. So
the money room of what?
The money room, where all the tills came in and we counted up the money and we put it in the safe, and then we found there was money missing. Then I got blamed. But
now we know how you've made your fortune.
Yeah.
But yes, I guess that's it. My ability to count money has kept me, helped me in my current career.
Every time I go to Whole Foods and I get deli turkey, I think about the fact that my summer job in college was working at a deli, cleaning tables and setting up plates and also slicing meat. And so I see them use the meat cutter and I'm like, oh man, I could do that. I could do that job. By the way, the woman who ran that place, when she shows you how to safely use the meat cutter, the first thing she does is you must be careful, and she shows me her hand, and the last knuckle of her pinky finger on that hand is gone.
Oh.
and it's horrifying. And then she says, "This I didn't cut it on the meat cutter, but don't cut yourself on the meat cutter." I'm like, yeah. So every time I go to Whole Foods and I order, a pound of smoked turkey, I'm like, oh man, I could do that job if all this internet stuff falls apart and the Apple and computers and stuff. Look for me at your local Whole Foods. I'll be cutting the meat because that's the only other skill I have.
You think about the pinky knuckle is what you think about.
I do. Roja Fenyo showing me her pinky knuckle. It really is a thing where it's just like, oh God, be careful. You got to be careful when you cut meat. Now, I suspect this question was for John.
Well, I did used to be a lawyer, and back in the 90s, I learned a skill that does serve me really well now, which is that I learned all about Boolean operators, because back in the day, you would do legal research on a thin client for services called Lexis and Westlaw, where the text would be returned to you over a dial-up connection, line by line, really literally character by character. You could watch it fill the screen. And so it was really important to be really good at search. And they were all designed by, computer nerds of the era, and they relied very heavily on Boolean operators, not just and or not, but a bunch of other characters and ways to do Boolean searches. And I use that to this day, because all that stuff is available in Google search still. So
that's cool. When I got to journalism school, we got access to LexisNexis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing because that was back before there was the internet. There was a legal and news database that had all content kind of historically and searchable, and it was an expensive subscription.
Oh, it was. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. That's what opened up my mind to the internet.
Yeah,
really, I would say
that was it. And short anecdote. I'm my mom's only, but my dad had 3 kids from a prior marriage, and also it turns out a 4th that was put up for adoption before they got married. It was the 50s, and my other 3 half siblings had been trying to find him, and all they knew was his name. And my sister had hired a private investigator to find him, and had come up empty. I put his name in LexisNexis, and I had his business license for his business and his address in 10 seconds.
Yep.
So the moral of this story is that was a bad private investigator.
It really was.
I did it in 10 seconds, and they got to meet him, which is great. They got to meet their full sibling who they'd never met before. That was awesome. You're welcome, half sibling. Did they probably thanked me. I don't know. Anyway, it's fun. It's weird being a half sibling. Okay, a couple more before we go. Nicholas wrote in, "You are all enthusiasts about a lot of things. Have any of you ever gotten close to being audiophiles? Are you already? With what podcasting equipment? What about for music?"
I would say I've never been an audiophile, and now that I can actually afford to be an audiophile, my ears can't hear the difference anyway. I do like a nice microphone, but that's for the listeners' ears, not mine.
That's very nice. John?
Yeah, I flirted with being an audiophile way back in the day in college, I would say, but I had a family and I had kids running around and a lot of noise in the background, so I sort of gave up on that, and now I'm not at all.
Yeah, I kind of believe that audiophile stuff is BS. Sorry, everybody.
You mean you don't want speaker cables for $100?
Neil, nothing. Very few things in tech have made me angrier than Neil Young endlessly talking about the Pono player and how lossless generates more emotion.
He was in the news again recently. I forget for what. I saw a headline about him.
I was never really a Neil Young fan musically, and then I became also not a fan of his technically. It was like I just think it's nonsense. For a guy, also take it from a guy who's blasted out his hearing that he thinks that the lossless is great. Anyway, I don't have any special audiophile stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, I bought a pair of headphones that were slightly nicer, and was blown away by how great they sound. But I was like listening to cassette tapes, folks. Like it was not, they weren't that nice. And I have in-ear monitors for podcasting. I do it mostly because I have they're customs, and so they go in
Yeah.
my ears and they fit really well, so I can wear them for hours at a time, and it doesn't hurt my ears. But it's more about that than it is about the quality. Obviously, I can tell that there are better quality speakers and there are better quality headphones and all of that, and I want them to be nice, but I wouldn't consider myself an audiophile, and I really do believe. I think maybe I've got my Apple Music to set to do, to play lossless, because why not? But honestly, high bitrate MP3 or AAC files also sound very, very good to the human ear.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
okay.
I've got that switched on too. Have I done any A/B testing to see if I can tell the difference? No.
I'm certain I can't. I
Yeah.
did actually. I bought I got a coupon that gave me a speaking of U2 albums, a lossless version of Octung Baby, and I actually did do an A/B test with that with a high bitrate MP3 or AAC, and I totally couldn't tell the difference. So
That's a weirdly specific coupon, Jason.
well, it was like, hey, we're selling albums on our lossless store, and we want you to write about it. So here's a coupon for an album.
I see.
And they only had like 15 albums, and probably 14 of them were Neil Young, right? So it was like,
Right.
You too. Octung Baby is an album I love, and also I thought an album I know really well, which is why
Yes,
I wanted to
yes.
listen to the lossless version of it, and I couldn't tell the difference, honestly. Okay, one last one here in the main show. We'll save some more for the post show, ProMax show. It's David. 2017, Apple releases iPhone X or 10 to celebrate 10 years. Please speculate outrageously about iPhone XX, which may or may not be coming soon.
Well, I mean, it's got to be better than the iPhone XY. He was making a chromosome joke, but never mind.
Yeah. Wow. You wrote that one
Wow.
down. You wrote that joke down. You thought that
Yeah,
was good
so
enough to
good,
write
so
down.
good I wrote it down.
John?
For posterity. This got me thinking about when the iPhone XX might actually happen, and that's only 3 years away. So I honestly don't think there are going to be that many changes, other than what I think we will get very soon is a folding phone. I think that it's all going to come together with the folding phone. I think a lot of this liquid glass stuff is designed to be bubbly and organic and imprecise, so that when your buttons are straddling a hinge, that it doesn't look bad. I think that Apple will do what they did with the dynamic island and the notch. They'll just make it, they'll take something that's kind of a flaw in the hardware and make it part of the UI, so you don't notice it as much. So I think that's kind of where we're headed.
I mean, I would like an iPhone DS, but I
like the conspiracy theory, John. I like that. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's all the clues are there for you.
Yeah, you only understand the glass when you see the completely transparent phone that is the iPhone XX.
Yeah, next fall they're gonna announce it, and we're all gonna go, "Oh, I see it now!" Like it'll all make sense then.
And
Or
then
won't.
everybody will remember the pickies. And
Everybody will remember the
this.
autumnal pickies. Oh, by the way, my answer here is I'm gonna hold out for the iPhone XL.
Very good.
That is, I think that's it for this episode, right? I think
Yeah,
so.
I think we've done our usual weekly episode.
Yeah, and we will be back next week, like always, because why would we even say that? Like, of course we'll be back next week. But until then, the website doesn't tell us how to say goodbye, but thank you to everybody out there. Thank you for listening to this normal episode of Connected. And until next time, gentlemen, say goodbye.
It's always my pleasure to do one of these.
Adios.
Arrivederci.
Something else in Italian said by
You have a Scottish farewell, James?
not one that wouldn't get me thrown out of the country.
We just have to bleep it.
Yes, thrown out of the country or thrown off the network, one of the two.